than x or equal to 3. Well, x is greater than 3 is the other one. I want you to do that. Janaya, do that for the one in red. I'll go back over to the screen. Am I recording? Yeah. So do it for the one in red now. So that's how you would say the one in blue. You're correct. X is greater than 3. How would you say this one in red? If you can get this part, the math on this lesson is not difficult at all. And we have a worksheet we're going to work on. Oh, I should probably... I'm going to upload that. So you now that you know what you're doing, I'm going to kind of upload the worksheet into it actually might be in Canvas, but I'm going to put it to what I'm going to email it to everybody. That's the fastest way to get it to everybody. So in your Canvas, you're going to be able to download this worksheet. That you don't have to, I mean, if you're done with the bell work and whatever, you can get this whenever you want to get it. But at some point today, this is what you'll download and what we're going to work on. I'll also show it on the screen for those of you that are having issues downloading, or if you just are lazy and you don't want to download it, that's fine, but then you're going to wind up having to write all the problems out, so it's going to be more work in the long run. So compose, send it to everybody. So this is a worksheet, and we're doing compound inequalities is what this is called. Still, although it's getting a little bit harder today. You're not starting on this just yet. Oh, I got to attach it. That would help. Practice. All right, so you have that in your email now. If you're done writing, I'm going to check through the answers real quick and talk about it, but you can download it while I'm talking. -2, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 people answered. All right, good to know. Put a bunch of X's in my box for everybody else, I guess. So Janaya answered. Kaya, Janaya, Sergey, and Kamari. Oh. I got you, I think. Oh, wait. Oh, no, that's the same one. All right. So Janaya, Kamari, Sergey, and Akaya. So everybody else that's present is getting a 0 on that. Don't even know if you're there. Probably not. Oh, Janaya got kicked out. All right, so only talking to about 4 of you apparently. So in this particular problem, like I said, this is the biggest, most difficult part of the whole lesson, is just understanding how to say these different inequalities or statements, what we need to create. So some of you said -2 is less than x and 3. That's reading it from left to right, which is the way, and this is why I do it, is because a lot of times that's the tendency to read it. It's just left to right. When we're doing math, though, in this case, sometimes we do go left to right. We need to think about this from the terms of our solution, and our solution is our variable. Our variable is all of the possible answers that solve this problem. So we always want to say x first. So I'm literally, and we know this is actually 2 equations. The way we know it's 2 inequalities, is I have 2 inequality signs. So You need to write this down real quick. Actually, I'm going to type it in so that it's easy to read. So, if you have two inequality signs, then you have two inequalities. Kind of pretty simple, right? Well, that's kind of small. I'm sure you can probably see it, but let me make it zoom in a little bit. There you go. If you have two inequality signs, then you have two inequalities. So I'll give you a second to write that. I'm actually going to write one more thing too. I don't want to write this yet because I want to ask the question.
Mr. Gill?
Yes.
Someone, the worksheet's written on.
The what?
The worksheet you sent me, it's written on. There's like writings on it.
What? Writing on it? Oh, that's fine. You can still use it. I did an example for them. I didn't know that would save. That's funny. You can still use it though. You probably have some of the work done for you now, but that's fine. I was going to do an example for you anyway, so when I open that up, I'll show it to you. Actually, I'll go ahead and open it right now.
All right.
But yeah, there's just the example isn't the same. Like you're talking about the one that's kind of on the lower right, sort of, or on the right side.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not an example that's on there, but it's similar to one of the problems. So I just did that. I was going to do the same thing with you guys, but if it's already on there, then you already have it. So I'll just go over it. Yeah, it's already on there, so I'll go. Oh, actually, all of them are already done for you. Oh, well. So we'll just go over it apparently with you guys. So we'll get through this pretty fast. I'm going to still do it from scratch. I don't know if I can erase this or not. Let me see if I can erase it. Yep. So hold on, I got a student just walked in. So hold on just a second. Thank you. Oh, I took the pass, sorry. All right, so let me see if I don't know if I can erase. Oh yeah. Oh no, that's gonna take forever. Shoot. And I don't think I can do the little circle trick. Yeah, sure can. Dadgummit. That's gonna take forever to erase. So while I'm doing this, I'll kind of talk about the way you say that. Everybody should have it written down, hopefully. Again, we want to think about this as two equations. And when we create the two equations, we always start with the variable. We don't start with the number. So we wouldn't say -2 is less than x, because that doesn't really explain anything to us. Like, what do I do with that? Like -2 is less than x. All right, well, that doesn't help me know exactly what to do from there. So with that in mind, let me see what somebody just typed in. I'll be right back. All right. I need to start with the x when I create, and what I'm about to do right now is I'm going to create the two equations because I have two inequality signs. I'm sorry, two inequalities. I have two inequality signs, so that means I need to create two separate inequalities when I go to graph this instead of just one. And again, I'm going to explain it differently in this class than I have in the others because I think this will be more clear when we get to the next part. So just hang tight and it'll maybe make more sense, even more sense when we do this later. So we have three sections of this inequality, really. There's the section, you know how sometimes we draw a line, like when we have an equation, 3x plus 2 is less than 7, and we draw a line down the middle, and that separates the left and the right. We're going to kind of do the same thing. Only now we actually have three sections because we have two different inequality signs. So we're going to draw a line vertically through both of them. So now here's what we do to create it. We always want to start with x when we create one of the inequalities. And we want the x to be on the left because that's the way that we read to graph. We would need to say, well, our answers, which are our x values, our solutions, they need to be either less than or greater than or whatever, some number. Well, I'm going to first look at this section, the x and the 2. I'm going to ignore everything going on over here. Just ignore it. And I'm just going to treat this, because remember, I have 2 inequalities, so I'm going to treat this as 1 inequality. Only I want the x to be on the left side, and it's not. If you look up here, the x is on the right side. And we've kind of gone over this before, but I need to flip this around and put x on the left. So the x is going to be there, -2 is going to be there, but what do I need to do with that sign? So again, if I think about this, remember the alligator, when you go back old school to elementary school, your alligator eats the bigger number, right? Well, if this is the alligator in the middle, that little less than symbol, it's actually saying that the x has to be greater than -2, because remember, the alligator points to the bigger number, which means x is greater than -2. All right, well, if I'm going to rewrite this, I need to make sure x is still greater than -2, so I need to flip that symbol. So that's one way to think about it, is if you understand that the alligator eats the bigger number, well, the alligator should always be eating the bigger number. So if x is the bigger number here in this original inequality, then down here it still needs to be the bigger number, and we need to flip that sign. The other way to think about it is you just flip everything. Put the x on the left, put the -2 on the right, and then flip the symbol in the middle. All right, but regardless, somehow you got to get the x on the left. We're ignoring this section on the right, so this is step 1, or yeah, step 1, by the way. So when we're creating these, this is step 1. I'm going to give you 3 steps that if you follow these, even if your understanding isn't perfect, you should still do okay. I'm going to zoom way in so that I can write a little bit better on this. I think I can zoom way in and still see it on the screen. Yeah. So here's what you would write underneath this, though. I would say, so step 1, I would say, so the x is what's in the middle, right? X was in the middle. So I'm going to say flip the middle and the sign and what's on the left. Boy, I should have typed that. Let me type that. I don't like that. It's hard to read. So we're going to flip the middle and the, now if this doesn't make sense to you, middle and the sign and what's on the left. The reason I'm saying middle and the sign instead of just saying x and -2 is because it's not always going to be x that's in the middle. It's not always going to be a number that's on the far left. Most of the time it will be a number, but not always. So remember, there's 3 sections. That's why we drew these lines. There's the, well, I'm going to erase all of this again. I'm going to kind of go back through it again. So when I'm saying middle and left and right, that's based on where I've drawn my vertical lines. So I drew a vertical line through that. Oops. There we go. I drew a vertical line through that. and a vertical line through that. Just like when we solve equations or inequalities that only have one symbol, we just drew a vertical line through it. So this I'm referring to as the left side. This is the right, which we haven't talked about yet. And this is the middle. All right, so whenever I'm saying left, right, middle, that's how I'm coming up with left, right, and middle. All right, so step one, we're just going to flip the middle and the left, but we also have to flip the sign. All right, so that's how we got that. And again, I'm recording this. You can always go back and watch it. So now, step two, I'm going to come over here. And I'm writing over the top of the number line just so I can try to fit everything on one screen since I've zoomed way in. Step two, same concept. I need to start, and so step two is we're creating the second inequality. Well, I'm still going to start with whatever's in the middle. So now if I go back up, I'm going to ignore now everything that's on the left, including the left inequality sign. And I'm just going to look at the middle and the right. So I need to flip. I'm sorry, I don't need to flip. Don't flip. I need to now basically say, okay, well, I need to start with whatever's in the middle. Whatever's in the middle is always going to be the way we say this phrase. So I would start, in this case, with just x, because that's all that's in the middle, and I would say x is less than or equal to 3. Well, how do I write that as an inequality? I just write the same exact thing that's there. So I would just write x is less than or equal to 3. I don't even have to change anything on that one because x is already on the left, or the middle part relative to this right side is already left of it. And we just want to keep it on the left. So we write the same thing. So again, the exact steps. Yep, good, it's already there. So for step two, we just write the middle first, then the same sign, then what's on the right. Let me go, I gotta go get that door again. Will you guys copy that down? Yeah. Yep. I'm gonna have some guests for a little while, so you might hear some talking in the background. So what's in the middle in this case was x. The sign is just, again, the same sign that was in the original inequality. And then we write what's on the right, which in this case was just 3. So the only thing left is we have to figure out what joins these two. Because remember, it's two inequalities, but they're joined by something. And we talked about this last class. There's two words we use. We either are going to use or and. One of those two is what we're going to use. When it's in person, I do it a little differently because I can get them a little more engaged. But for you guys, I'm just going to kind of go through it. Here's your rule. When you're deciding which word to use. So again, we have and or we have or. We got to choose. Which one of these do we use to join those two equations? So I'm going to type this in so it's easy to read. Was that a question?
What you said?
Are you talking to me?
Yes.
So we're deciding. So right now we have two inequalities. We have this inequality, x is greater than -2. And then we have this inequality, x is less than or equal to 3. And we need to decide, do we join these with the word or do we join these with the word and when we say it? So here's what you need to write down. So join the two inequalities with either the word and. I'm going to write these in caps because I'm going to have to use the same words twice, one of the words twice. So we're either going to pick the word and or the word or. So I got to pick one of those two to join them. Normally they'll just give it to you, and you'll see that when we do the worksheet in a minute. Normally they'll just give you the word. I'll write that whole thing, I guess. Normally they will give you the word in the problem, I guess. And I'm not talking about word problems. So I guess I'll write that in. Not talking about word problems, because that's totally different. They can use all kind of different words. I'm just talking about like when it's already set up in like in a kind of an equation form like this. So you're just looking at something that says this right here. -2 is less than x. So if you have it in this format already, normally they'll give you a word and say and, or they'll say or. But if you'll notice, we don't have a word here, right? We just have -2 less than x less than or equal to, and then 3. So
Can you zoom out?
What's that?
Can you zoom out?
Yep. No, I'm gonna scroll. I guess I could zoom out. That might work since I'm typing now and not writing. So I'll just zoom out so you can see all of it. So if they don't give you a word right here, so let me finish typing it in. Oops, didn't mean to do that. There we go. If they don't give you the word, like they didn't give it to us here, then use and. So you'll see some examples that we'll do on the worksheet, and this, if you just write this down right now, you'll see some examples and it'll start making a little more sense. So in this particular problem, they don't give us a word, they just give us a bunch of symbols and variables and numbers. So we need to use the word and. So this would be an and problem. So the way we would say, and we kind of already said this earlier, x is greater than -2 and x is less than or equal to 3. So again, and this is step 3. I'll have to type this in. I'm not sure if I can get all this in. So I'm going to erase this part right here. I'm going to do, hopefully this will work. Yeah, that'll be close enough. There. That's about as good as I can do, apparently. Hopefully you can still see this stuff. So now I'm going to type in, so this is step 3 here. You got to figure out what is the word so step 3. So step 3, and I'll type it in. So for step 3, you need to figure out which word you use to join the two inequalities. There you go. So step 3, I'll make that a little bit. Did that work? Nope. There we go. So the step 3 is figure out which word you use. So you create one inequality using what's on the middle and the left. You create a second inequality using what's on the middle and the right, and then you just got to figure out which word to use, which sometimes they'll just give it to you. Sometimes you have to figure it out. All right, so if you can do all of that, if you can figure that part out, the rest of everything is easy. That's why I'm spending so much time on that piece of it. So I'm going to get rid of all of that. So make sure you've copied all of that stuff down. This last part here, I'm going to give you another minute or two. Oh, let me let somebody in. So I think that was Joe. You just came in super, super late, bud. So we're in the middle of the lesson now, so you can try to catch everything up, but I got to move forward. This is being recorded again. For all of you, this is being recorded, so if you don't get something, just go back and fill in your notes later. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of all the writing now. I'm going to rewrite the equation. Yeah, I'll just rewrite it. That'll be faster. So again, we did step 1, 2, and 3. We came up with x is greater than -2, and x has to be less than or equal to 3. So now we just graph it, which we did last time in class. So I'm just going to graph it for you. It helps to use 2 different colors. I'll show you how to do this if you don't use 2 different colors. So I'm going to do the first. I'm going to do the first. I don't want to do it in red. I already wrote it in red. I guess I can do it in red. No, I'm not going to do it in red. Let's do it in green. So I'll graph this one in green, because like I said, it helps to have 2 colors. So x needs to be greater than -2. Well, my first step to graphing, put a circle there. Do I need to fill it in? No, because I don't have the little equal sign underneath it, so I don't fill it in. So I just leave it open, and all my answers, all my x values need to be greater than -2, which means I need to go to the right. And you should have in your notes how to graph, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. So there's my first. I'm not going to shade it all in because we kind of need to keep it a little bit cleaner so that we can figure out what our final answer is. So I've done one of the 2. Now I'm going to do the second one. So there we go. X is less than or equal to 3. All right, well, I put a circle on 3. Then I say, do I need to fill that in? Well, in this case, I do have this little equals 2 underneath. So that means, yes, I need to fill that in. So I go ahead and I fill it in. And now I shade left because it needs to be less than or equal to that number. So there we go. So I've done both of them separately. So here's the final step. I need to say, okay, well, what's my final answer? Because I just treated those as 2 separate inequalities, but they're not separate. This is one problem. They need to be treated as if they're one problem. So when you have an and inequality, compound inequality, when the word is and that is joining them, your solution set, and I'm going to type this down, you can write it again. Oops. So when you have the word and joining your 2 inequalities, then your final solution is the part of the graph or number line, same thing. So I'm going to say graph, and then in parentheses, I'm going to put number line. If you put something in parentheses like that, it just means they're the same thing. Graph, number line, thing. So part of the graph or the number line where you have 2 lines or 2 shadings, which I'll explain in a second. Because if you have 2 of them, that's the section of the graph where you meet both rules. Because remember, these inequalities are really just rules that we have to follow. The rule is x has to be greater than -2. But the other rule that we have to follow both of them, is x also has to be less than or equal to 3. All right? So if it has to be both rules, then the only place we have both rules is wherever we have both lines. Or if you see a closed circle in a line, then that number counts also. So in this case, 3 counts. 2 does not count because we have an open circle, which means technically we don't have anything right on the -2. Even though we have blue down here, we don't have green right on the -2. So the short version, so then our final solution then, I'm going to zoom out one more time. So you would have to do a final graph whenever you have and. Oh, let me move all of this stuff out of the way. So let me slide some of that down a little bit lower, and then I'll slide it a little bit higher. So, okay, so here we go. So now my final solution is everywhere that I have both of these lines. So this blue line is not a solution because I only have the blue line. This green line is not a solution because I only have the green line. I need everywhere that I have both lines because this is an and problem. It means I have to satisfy both of these two inequalities. And I'm kind of repeating this a lot, I know, but I just want to make sure, hopefully it's clear. So I'm going to go in, I'm going to create a new graph. So I'm going to say, all right, well, this is my final graph. It goes, I don't really need to create the whole entire graph because I'm just going to put on it where my final solution is. So I could go from -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You're going to really just put the circles the same exact way you did them. So one closed circle will be on 3, right? That's how it looked up above. An open circle will be on 2. And then again, my final answer is where I have both lines. So the only place I have both lines is right here in the middle. So that means I would just be shading for my final answer the middle. So that is my final answer to this problem. This graph up above, so this graph here is not my final answer. Don't just do that and then leave. You need to create this graph at the bottom when you have the and word. If you have an or word, you can actually leave just the original graph as your answer because, and I'll explain that later, but basically when you have an or, either of the two solutions or either of the two inequalities is okay as long as we meet one of them. So that means your solution set, we did this last class, that means your solution set is either of the two. So you can just leave both of them on the same graph. And again, I know this is a little confusing, but when we do the worksheet, all right. All right, so I know that was a lot. Take a deep breath. We've got about 45 minutes left. So we're going to go into a worksheet. So you guys should have gone out and gotten that worksheet. I emailed, oh, Joseph, I emailed it to you. You weren't on, so go to your Canvas and there's a worksheet I emailed. So now we're going to work on some problems. You should be able to do number 1 on that worksheet right now. So go ahead and do number 1. I'll pull the worksheet up. Yeah. There you go. Thank you. So again, for number 1, oh man, I forgot I already done these. Ah, shoot. All right, try to do it on your own. I'm going to kind of get rid of it. I mean, you pretty much know the answer now, but try to do it on your own because, again, you guys are the ones that are going to have the quiz on it. You need to know how to do this. If you'll notice, they already give you the word or in there, like I said. And again, word problems are a little different. So you don't, you won't always You won't always have word problems. So 3, when we go to 3 through 7, those will be more like what you'll see initially before we get to the word problems. God, I can't believe I saved this. This stinks. I may have to download this again because this is taking forever. So again, try to do number 3. You need to graph it. I'm sorry, try to do number 1. You need to graph it also. Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm going to download this again because there's just no way to get rid of that. So again, number 1. Oh boy, it erased everything on there? Huh, that is so weird. It even erases the writing? Wow, it does. I did not know that. That's crazy. Huh. All right, so I'm going to download it again. Hopefully you read the problem. It says all numbers that are less than -3 or greater than or equal to 5. But yeah, I got to download that again. That's not going to work. I don't know. I don't even want that anymore. So it might take a second. So 1, 6. So this is your online book. If you ever want to go in and look for like explanations, there's all kind of stuff in here. Concept summary is always a good one because it kind of just goes over everything that we go through for a lesson. Although it's sometimes not a lot of information, but so there you go. It kind of goes over that. Just it's not always enough information for you to understand it, but it's still a good thing to look at and then say, okay, do I understand what they're saying? And if you do, then you're probably in pretty decent shape. So, oh, I hope I'm still, yeah, there we go. So I need to download. Oh, this is another good one. If you go into your online book, reteach, we might actually use this one sometimes. So this is kind of like another mini lesson on everything we do, and you have to be able to fill in some of the information. That's another good one to use. It's not really a lesson, I guess. It's more for you to see if you understand it. And then this is the one that I'm downloading that we're going to use. This additional practice worksheet, that's what we use a lot. So. All right, so there we go. Now we have a blank one. There we go. So I want you guys to do number 1. You should have already really done it. So I'm going to kind of go through it. So it says all real numbers that are less than -3 or greater than or equal to 2. I'm sorry, to 5. So again, we need to create the 2 inequalities and join them with a word. Same process we just went to. Well, in this case, it says all real numbers that are less than -3. So that's pretty easy. And X is going to stand for all real numbers. In this one. X won't always stand for that, but in this one it does. So we're going to say, all right, well, X. It's not writing. X. Well, still not writing. Let's try that again. Well, why is that not working? Well, let's try that again. Yep. I don't know why it's not working. Interesting. Tell you what, let me do this then. So this is the tool. Oh, by the way, I put this snippet tool thing. I made a video to show you how to not download. It's already on your computer. I put a video though on how to drag it out and put it on your toolbar below so that you can use it. So I'm going to take a screenshot of this right now since it's not allowing me to write on this paper or this page. So you can do the same kind of stuff if you, what in the world? Or maybe you can't. Why is this not working? Oh, there we go, new. That's why it's not working. So if I drag and cover everything, this will now copy it, or I can now copy it. So I copy it, and then I can come over here and just put it in this. You don't have to worry about doing this. You won't use this, but I'm just saying to take a screenshot. I could have saved it. If I wanted to save this, I could have saved it to my computer by hitting the save button. So I'll just show you real quick. Like, see how there's a save button? You can email it if you need to send it to a teacher. If you need to take a screenshot of your screen and send it to a teacher, that's another way to do it. So like if you're doing stuff in English or any other class where you're actually typing into your computer instead of working stuff out on paper, you could take a screenshot and send it to teachers. I'm sure you probably save stuff in Word documents right now, but so there's a video on how to use that on my YouTube, or how to put that on your system. So, all right, so let's go back to this. Zoom in. All right. So, first step, I would say x equals the real numbers. So x equals the real numbers. All right. So now these real numbers need to be two things. These x values, they need to be less than -3. Well, that's pretty easy. It just has to be less than -3. That's step one. Remember, we talked about that. Step one. So step two, again, we write x and we write 5. And then we say, all right, well, they need to be greater than or equal to 5. So that's step 2. And then the last step, step 3. Step 3 is just which word do we join it with? Well, in this particular case, they tell us right here. They just say or. They just say or in the problem. Now, word problems can be a little trickier sometimes because they don't always just use and they don't always just use or. Sometimes you have to be able to figure out what that word is supposed to be, and you'll see that in the next problem. So we now have it. We can graph that. It's x is less than -3 or greater than or equal to 5. So I'm going to graph it real fast for you. So this would be, we'll say -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5. Boy, so I needed a bigger graph, really. All right. I'm gonna make a longer graph, I guess. Here, I'm gonna do the graph way up here. There we go.
My freshman year, we went 10-0. All the seniors left. You know, well, they didn't leave, but we had a couple of good seniors. Last year, we went, I think, 6-4. We have lost Derek. You know who Derek was? We lost Derek, Sherrod, Brandon, AJ. All
right. So. And then we can keep going on out, but we don't need them. So again, I'm going to graph each of them separately. So when I graph the first one, it's this one right here. Boy, we're not going to get to even the other problems on the work. We might. So I say, all right, well, I put, if I'm going to graph x is less than -3, put a circle on -3. And then if I need to be less than -3, I go that way. So now in a different color, I'm going to say, all right, my next one is that. Well, I put a circle on 5. I need to fill in the circle because I have the little equal sign underneath. So I fill in the circle, and then I need to be greater than, so I do underneath the number line. Now, in this case, for my step 3 of graphing, or not really graphing, my step 3 of determining what's my final solution, if I have the word or, that means either of these two solution sets will work as my final answer. If I come up with a number that is less than -3, that's fine. I'm okay with that. That is part of my answer set. Or it could also be greater than or equal to 5. I'm fine with that also. I'm fine with either of these things because I said or here. I don't care which one happens. Either way, I'm fine with it. Well, if that's the case, then you're done. Either of these could be the solution. So I can just leave both of them on the same graph and I'm done. When we did the and problem, that's when we have to figure out, well, where do I have both lines? Because if it's and, then I need to see both lines on top of each other. And if that was the case in this one, this would be a no solution if it was and, because there's nowhere where these lines are on top of each other. Here I just have one line, here I just have one line, and here I don't have any lines. And you'll see that in the next graph. So let me go ahead. I'm going to go to so this is going to help you with the next one. So I fish a lot, as you guys know. I think I've told you, love to fish. I also love to eat fish. Where is it at? Well, shoot. Where is it at? Well, apparently somehow it got deleted and didn't save. So I guess I'll type it up. So let me type it up again. So cooking fish. So when you cook fish, fish is a little tricky to cook. Kind of like chicken a little bit, I guess. You don't want to cook it for too long because then it doesn't taste very good. It gets a really weird, like, it tastes almost, can taste rubbery almost. But at the same time, you have to cook it for long enough or else, it could be a little dangerous. It could be, you don't typically get salmonella, but theoretically you could maybe get salmonella for it or something. So when I cook my fish that I catch, I have to cook it for at least 12 minutes, but no longer than 18 minutes. So we're going to create from this a inequality.
You said 15?
What's that?
You said 15 or 18?
18, yeah. I may have said 15, but I meant 18. All right, so just from a word problem, I'm going to create the inequality. So what I would need to do is think, okay, well, what is my x value? X is kind of my unknown, which in this case is, well, how long am I going to cook the fish? Is it going to be for 0 minutes or 100 minutes or 15 minutes? What's it going to be? So x I would define as how long I cook it. I'm just going to write how long I cook. I guess fish. All right. So now again, we always start from the x, from the variable, from the unknown, from what we're trying to figure out. So I need to create two inequalities. Again, same steps, nothing's different. Step 1, I'm going to start with the x, and then I'm going to pick a number. Doesn't really matter too much initially which number you pick, but I normally pick the lower number. So it's going to be 12. And again, I'm not making this super interactive. I'm not asking questions, unfortunately. So I need to be, but I got a few things earlier in the problem. But So I need to cook this for at least 12 minutes. Well, let me think to myself, does at least 12 mean I could cook it for 0? X could be less than 12, like would 0 work? Well, no, that's silly. 0 would certainly not work, so X cannot be less than 12. So at least 12 minutes means I must cook it for either 12 minutes or greater than. And it could be 12, like at least 12 means it could be 12. So there we go. Got that one. So step 2, I come over here. I'm going to create the second inequality. So it says no longer than 18 minutes. So I start with X again. That's always my first, or I start with what's going to be in the middle, I should say. It's not always going to be X, but what's in the middle. Well, so the amount of time I cook it, could I cook it for 100 minutes? Well, no, that doesn't make sense. So X can't be greater than 18, so it must have to be less than. And that's what no longer than 18 means, less than. So my other question is, would exactly 18 be okay? Well, yeah, I think exactly 18 would be okay because it says no longer than 18. It doesn't say less than 18, it just says no longer than 18. So yeah, so I would go with that. Less than or equal to. And then my last thing, again, step 3 is which number do I need to use? So step 3 is, do I use and or do I use or? Well, again, if it's or, then that means either of these two inequalities is okay. I could cook it for anything greater than 12, or I could cook it for anything less than 18, either of these. Well, I just said I can't cook it for 0. I also just said I can't cook it for 100 minutes. So it doesn't make sense that either of these would be true. So it must be and. Like, I have to cook it for at least, like, greater than or equal to 12, and it would also have to be less than or equal to 18. So the and part in word problems, or the or part, you do kind of have to be able to figure that part out. There's no set steps I can give you to figure that out from a word problem, but you just need to think yourself, do I need to follow both of these rules? In this case, I do. I have to be greater than or equal to 12 and less than or equal to 18. Or do I really just need to follow one of the two rules? I don't really care which rule. Either of them will be okay. And then that would be an or. So in this case, I need to follow both of them. So that's and. So once I've created that, if I graph it, I would create a graph that has those numbers in it. So I think the best way to do that is to kind of just skip numbers. Like, I wouldn't start at 0. I would maybe start, say, 5, 10, 15, 20, and then 25, something like that. And then I would just estimate about where to put my numbers. So if I'm going to do that one first, I would put a circle on 12. And then it says I need to be greater than or equal to 12, so I would fill that in. And I would shade that way. Now I'll do this one in green. And I would say, all right, well, I would put a circle on 18, right? And it could be less than or equal to. So equal to means I fill this in. And I go that way. And then my final answer, remember, because I have an and, this is and. So my final answer is wherever I have both lines. So I would actually have to draw another graph, which I'll do that one in black. So now I say, all right, well, my final graph, I'll still do 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So my final graph would be, all right, it needs to be between or equal to, so basically right here, that's my final graph where I have both lines. So I would put a closed circle on 18, I'd put a closed circle on 12, and then I would shade the area in between. So that's my final answer when it's an and problem. So I'm going to give you one more example, and then you're going to do some problems out. All right, so I'm going to get rid of all of that. Again, this is recorded. If you didn't get it, you can go back and watch it. It'll be on my YouTube. So I'm going to erase all of that. So now we're moving on to the problems that are already set up as inequalities. They're not word problems. So kind of look at number 3. I'm going to give you an example pretty similar to number 3, and then you should be able to do 3, 4, and 7. And that's what you're going to turn into. Oh boy, where did I put the Dadgummit. Where did I copy that over? Dang it. I mean, fine, I just copied it over and I can't find it already. Is that it? Yeah, there we go. All right. So again, look kind of at number 3. So I'm going to give you an example kind of similar to number 3, really similar to number 3, actually. So let's do this. I'll extend it down a little bit. There we go. So let's say we had this problem. Let's say we had 6 is less than, I'll use a different variable, y subtract 3, which is less than 18. Number 3. I need to get y, because when you graph it, you have to have it down to just one variable. I can't graph y subtract 3. I can't graph any of this the way it is. So what I'm basically going to have to do is I have to solve for y, which I can do. I have y and I have enough information where I can solve for y. But again, I have 2 inequality signs, which means technically I have 2 inequalities. So that means I got to solve out twice. So here's what you have to do. It's kind of similar to what we just did. So now that I've written the problem, I'm going to scroll down. I need to create 2 separate inequalities joined by a word, just like I did before. So it's the same steps. So step 1, I take what's in the middle. Remember, you have this from earlier in the lesson. So what's in the middle now is not just a variable, it's actually an expression. It's a variable with a number, something we're going to use to solve. So I say, all right, well, this goes on the left, because before we just put x on the left, but now we have to put everything on the left, everything in the middle. Oh, I could draw my lines to separate the middle and the left and the right. So this is the left,
That's what I mean.
middle, and then right. All right. So now I put what's on the left. I put what's on the middle on the left. I put the number that's on the left on the right. This is all step 1. And I just have to figure out how should my symbol look? Well, if you remember that we're just flipping everything, then you can just flip the symbol. But even better than that, you need to think, okay, well, y subtract 3 is greater than 6, right? So that's the way the alligator is going. All right, well, if y subtract 3 is greater than 6 up here, then y subtract 3 down here also needs to be greater than 6. So again, you either just remember I have to flip it, or if you can think about it intuitively and understand that y subtract 3 still needs to be greater than 6, then you make more sense, because this would be the alligator here, facing still toward the y subtract 3. Either way, that's what your final answer would have to be, whichever way you have to do to remember it.
I heard they got some.
Well, there we go. So, like that. So step 2. So step 2, I need to say, all right, well, now I take what's in the middle, which is y subtract 3, and I really just write the rest of the inequality. I just write the same symbol and then what's on the right. So now my last step, step 3, is which one do I join it with? This is where we said if we don't see any words to know what to join it with, then we use and. And I don't see any words, right? I have 6, I have the symbols, I have y subtract 3, I have 18. There's no words to tell me that it's an or that it's an and. So if there's no words, that means it's and. So that's creating the inequality. And again, this one's going to be just like number 3. Oh, my final, oh wait, I haven't done this yet. So now I need to solve these out a little bit.
All right, yeah, you good, you good.
You know I want you out there though, man.
Yeah, I got you.
So now though, I can't graph y subtract 3 is greater than 6. I can't graph y subtract 3 is less than 18. I need to solve for y in both of these. And that's just a 2-step equation, just like everything else. Most of the math, like I said, the math is normally pretty easy in these. It's not going to be nearly as difficult as some of the stuff we've done. So in order to solve, we just do the same thing we've always done. We draw a line down the middle, or down the inequality sign. We do a 2-step equation, plus 3, plus 3. We have y, we have 9. We can do, that would technically be a 1, so we can do the division, divided by 1. Well, that would still just be y. Anything divided by 1 is just the same thing, so we really just still have the same thing. And then we do the same thing on the other side. All right, well, I draw my line. I say plus 3. I say plus 3. The steps are going to be the same because whatever is in the middle of our inequality, we're going to use that twice because we created the inequality in step 1 with y subtract 3, but the inequality in step 2 also uses the y subtract 3. So now we just say, all right, well, that's 21. Now I'm less than that. That went away, so I still have y. Went away over there too, by the way. So now that would technically be a 1 there, so I could say divided by 1 divided by 1. And I just get the same thing because anything divided by 1 doesn't really change. So my answer to again, this is my problem. This is not on your sheet, but you're going to do the problems on your sheet and turn it into me later. So my final answer, and I still have and, nothing changed there. And is still the word we use. We use the word and at the beginning, then we use the word at the end. So if that's the final answer, now that I have it down to y, I can graph this. If y is my solution set, if y are all my possible answers, then again, I just create a graph. I'm going to skip some numbers because my numbers are getting pretty large here. So I'd probably do 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. I don't really need 30, but I'll write it in. So I need to be greater than 9. So if I'm doing this one first, I would say, all right, well, 9 is right here. I don't fill it in because there's no equals to sign underneath. So I don't fill it in, and I graph everything greater than 9. All right, well, that's one of them. I'll do the second one in blue. All right, well, if I need to be less than 21, then I need to put a circle on 21. Again, I don't fill it in because there's no little equal sign underneath the symbol here. I don't have that, so I don't fill the circle in. And I do everything less than 21, which would be this way. Now this is an and problem, which means I'm not done. I need to then think, okay, well, what's my final solution? So for my final solution, I draw the graph again, and I take all of the area where I have both lines. All right, well, where do I have both lines? Well, and I'm just going to put circles in the same kind of circle, the same place first. So I would put one open circle there. I'd put one open circle on 21. So again, same exact thing I have above as far as the circles go. If one of those was filled in, I would fill it in, but they're not in this problem. So again, this circle is on 21. This circle is on 9. If you're not sure where I'm getting that from, just like it was up here. Because I'm getting that from these numbers up here in the two inequalities. So now I just say, well, where do I have both lines? Where do I have blue and green? Or if you're only using one color, you would just say, where do I have both lines? And that's why we do one line below the number line and one line above the number line, so we can still see lines. All right, well, the only place I have both lines is right here in the middle. So that is my final solution for an AND problem. I have to draw a separate graph. If it was an OR problem, you only have to graph one time. You graph both inequalities, but you just do them both on your first graph, and then that would be your final answer if it's an OR problem. For an AND problem, you have to think, well, where do they overlap? And that's my solution. And remember, if they don't overlap, then you don't have a solution. It's no solution. All right, so I know that was a lot. You still have about 13 minutes. So I want you to get started on 3, 4, and 7. That's what you have to turn in to me. So you're going to create, just like I did, you're going to create both inequalities, unless they already give you the two inequalities you need, but I don't think they do in 3, 4, and 7. So you need to do this entire process that I just went through. So you'll create both inequalities, which is this step right here. You created both, or we created both. Let me do this first. So you create both inequalities first. Create both inequalities, and you do that using the step 1, step 2, and step 3 that I showed you earlier. Once you've created both of them, then you have to solve for the variable in both of them. So here we solved for y, and we got that. Here we solved for y, and we got that. And then once you solve and you have it down to just y, then you can graph. And the 3, 4, and 7 are all and inequality, compound inequalities. So they'll all involve the word and. I'll just tell you that. So then you'll create your first graph and then your final graph. So those same steps. I'm not going to make this due until the end of the day. So you have, tell you what, you can turn it in by Monday. I'll do that. Since I went through this fast and you may have to go back and watch the video a couple of times. Try to do it now, though, because I can help you right now if you have questions. Otherwise, you're on your own if you try to do it this weekend. And what was the question? Yeah.
So what about the other problems on the worksheet? You just
right now, just do 3, 4, and 7.
And when we do the worksheet, we're going to have to do 3, 4, 7 again.
Yeah. So the worksheet that I showed you earlier, where is it? I think it's here. Yeah, here you go. So we already did 1 and 2. You should have 1 and 2 done in your notes, because you probably will see something like that on a quiz. It's easier for me to do word problems for you guys online than it is for me to do these, because these you can probably just do an app. That's why I say you need to break out the 2 different inequalities here and show me understand what you're doing. So you need to do that step when you go to solve 3, 4, and 7. But all you really have to turn in is 3, 4, and 7. All right. And you'll do it the same way. Work it out on paper and take a picture of it, and I guess just send it to me in Canvas for this one also, because this is I'll probably have a focus grade up for it. So look in focus. If you don't see it in focus, again, focus just helps me get to it faster. Canvas is something that I got to weed through a whole bunch of emails to figure out which ones are about the assignment. And even when I do that, I still have to go into the attachment, and it's just not as focused. The attachment opens up right there in focus, and I can just look at it immediately. So it just takes me longer with anything you send through Canvas to give you a grade on it. So try to do maybe one of them at least right now. Try to do number 3, which is exactly like the one I just did. And then you can see how you feel about it, and I can help you before, and then you can do the other ones, you know, later today, Sunday, or whenever you wind up doing homework normally. I know that was a lot of stuff, so if you try it right now, I can try to help you. Otherwise, you'll just have to go back and watch the video and try to figure it out from the video, because I know it's a lot. Let me get rid of all of that stuff because that's confusing, I'm sure. So remember, you break out this into 2 different inequalities using the middle and what's on the left, then using the middle and what's on the right. You got to figure out which word joins it, which I already told you in this case, since we don't see a word, it's and. Like if you'll notice in number 5, we see the word or, so we know that's going to be an or. In number 6, we see the word or, so we know that's going to be an or. So that's why I say the only time you ever whenever you don't see the word, it's just automatically going to be and, because they always give you the word or whenever they create inequalities like set up like this, not word problems. They have to. That's the only way you can do an or statement. All right, so I'm going to be here. You guys just work on it. If you have questions, you can preferably say something, because I may not be right at my computer. Got other stuff I'm going to kind of be working on, but I'll check back and forth to see if I have messages in the chat. There's nothing I can really leave up, I guess. So if you have to go back and watch the video later, if you're just really, really not sure how to do this, you can't even do enough of it to ask me questions, then you can just go back and watch the video later. Not due, though, until end of the day Sunday. And moving forward for next quarter, I am going to probably start to use Canvas a little, because I know a lot of you are more comfortable using Canvas as opposed to others. So I'll have to figure that out, since I don't use Canvas and I know how to use Focus. I'll figure Canvas out better.
So 3, 4, and 7 become printed in Canvas today?
Yeah, you can. I'd prefer you do it in Focus. Actually, I'm going to set the Focus assignment up right now, and I'll put this attachment in there so you can get to it if for some reason well, it's in your Canvas email also, but I'll still put it in the Focus assignment. So if you're you may want to at least write the problems down, since I'm not going to be on this screen. If you haven't already downloaded this, you could just write 3, 4, and 7 down real quick. If you didn't download this, because I'm about to leave the screen in like 1 minute. So I'll let you copy those down real quick if you haven't downloaded it. But yeah, at 10:40, I'm going to leave this screen to go ahead and create the assignment in Focus. Oh, I don't know if I can create an assignment on next quarter, though. I think I can. So maybe I won't be able to create it in Focus. I don't know. Yeah, actually, that probably won't work. Just send it to me in Canvas, because I don't think I can, even if I can create it, you may not be able to get to it until next quarter, which technically would be after today, but I don't want to run the risk of that. So just just email it to me in Focus. That's fine. And again, by the end of the day Sunday, because I'll be done with your grades, really, but I'll go in and I'll check for this assignment. I wasn't really including this assignment, though, on this quarter, so I may not have to check for it. I might include it for some of you, though, because some of you don't have any grades in. If you at least email this, I can give you something. Earlier today, I tried to give some grades. Only 4 of you got credit. Those 4 of you that sent the message with the how you would say the bell work problem. So a whole bunch of you got zeros on that, if you're even still listening, which most of you probably are not. But that's all right. Come report card time, I think a lot of you are going to be in a little trouble at home with parents. So, or maybe not. I don't know. All right, so I'm going to put my computer on mute just because I'm going to be making noise in here, doing stuff in my room. Whoops. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Shoot.